Since I started running and lifting, I've had to adapt my diet a surprising amount to make it work for me. Initially, I struggled with what I should be eating to not only maintain muscle mass and build strength, but also to be running a seemingly ever-increasing number of miles each week. So figuring that out has not been easy, believe me. But 1 year on in this hybrid journey, and I've developed a 3-point philosophy for how I think about my diet, which is wildly different to how I used to eat when I was a powerlifter. I'm feeling energized, I'm increasing my barbell strength and my running pace at the same time, and I'm leaner than I've been in years. And most importantly, I'm still enjoying my food and eating in a way that supports my health, not just my training. So what is this new philosophy and how does it change what I'm eating day to day? Well, let's find out. So my 3-point philosophy basically explains the different mindsets in which I view food. It allows me to eat what I need to fuel my hybrid training, be adaptable with my diet, recognizing life gets in the way, and most importantly, it's a sustainable and healthy plan that I can continue indefinitely into the future. So these 3 mindsets are food as fuel, food as nutrition, and food as enjoyment. And I'll come back to them in a minute. So today I was off work, so I'd scheduled in one of my double training days, and I tend to start these off with a run first thing. This morning, I was only going 5 miles, so a quick black coffee and a banana was enough to get me going, in more ways than one. I've got big into running, and I'm about to start training for my first marathon in April next year, before pushing on and going for some ultras in the summer. But alongside that, I'm trying to slowly build back towards my former strength in the gym. My former approach to diet was to eat everything and anything I could get my hands on. Food was a means to an end, and that end was lifting heavier weights in the gym, no matter how awful I felt in training or in between. But for someone at the time who just lifted weights as a hobby, did it make sense for me to eat in this unhealthy and unsustainable way? Well, when I turned to running, I started looking for an alternative. I needed a diet that would allow me to maximise my performance in the gym while staying relatively lean to keep my running goals on track. But now as a doctor with an increasing understanding of how what we eat affects our long-term health, I also wanted to be eating food in a way that was healthy and sustainable for me in the long term. So how am I doing that? Well, let's start with what I eat in the morning. So back from my run now and got my proper breakfast, which is some granola, some berries, some nuts and some full-fat yogurt. And this leads nicely onto me talking about the first of my 3 points, which is food as fuel. So on days when I'm training, and especially those where I'm doing 2 workouts in a single day, the focus for my diet really is on fueling that exercise. So do I have enough energy to fuel those workouts, and am I consuming enough calories to account for what I'm burning throughout the day? So with this breakfast, as I said, the focus is going to be on repleting those glycogen stores with the carbohydrate and the high fat content that's going to help keep me full throughout the day, and also help me just get closer to that total calorie count that I need to consume throughout the day so that I'm not losing weight. And this kind of pre and post run eating is one of the ways that my diet has changed significantly over the last few months. Previously, I wouldn't have dared work out on an empty stomach and probably would have had quite a high protein breakfast before any workout, be it a run or a lifting session. And one of those high protein, high fat breakfasts right before a run would have left me feeling pretty groggy. But actually taking those pre-workout breakfasts out of the equation, I actually tend to feel a little bit better. But don't get me wrong, if I was to go on a much longer run, I definitely would have wanted to get a meal or 2 in that day before the workout. So I just finished up making my lunch and I've got a sweet potato, 4 whole eggs fried, some seeds sprinkled on top, some homemade kimchi, and then just some salad on the side. And this is a great meal for me to talk about my second point, which is food as nutrition. And this point can be broken up into 2 parts. And the first element is that the food that I eat should contain the macro and micronutrients I need to recover and to grow as an athlete and a human. And the second element is that food should contribute towards me living a healthy lifestyle sustainably into the future. So this point is where I've changed my eating habits by the most more recently. For instance, now I try and target around 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight. This is far less than I used to eat, but is actually more than most recommendations for the average adult. Now, a lot of people in the fitness industry will recommend many multiples more than this amount of protein per day. And there isn't really a lot of evidence to support that practice, unless you're someone who's actively trying to lose weight whilst maintaining muscle mass at the same time. But here's where I think it's important to distinguish between someone like myself, an 82 kilogram male who runs 20 to 30 miles a week and lifts 2 to 3 times a week, and a professional bodybuilder. Unlike them, my sole focus isn't to take literally every step possible to build unnatural amounts of muscle. But for them, it's their job. They have different priorities, right? I can pretty much guarantee that most people living in the Western world, like me, in good health, are highly unlikely to be protein deficient. And leading on from that, I'm now trying to get more of my protein and calories in each meal from sources that are healthy for me and my gut. These are things like pulses, grains, seeds, or nuts. This is compared to the typical Western diet, which is high in things like red meats or ultra-processed foods. That's not to say that I'm a vegetarian or anything, or that I'm not partial to the occasional steak. I've just made an active effort more recently to cut out ultra-processed foods, reduce my reliance on red meats and shakes as my sole source of protein, and eat more high fibre plant-based foods. And my last point in this food as nutrition part, there's now good evidence to show if you can eat 30 different types of plants every week, you're likely to be able to reduce your risk of long-term health conditions like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and even different types of cancers. And just quickly, please don't take this as specific medical advice or me telling you what you can and can't eat. This is just how I'm doing at the moment. And so far, it's going great for me in my training. Right, enough about that, I'm starving. So I've just finished up training and I've just made a little post-gym snack. I'm not sure if you can see that. So I'm going to finish this up with a cup of tea and watch a little bit of YouTube. So I've just been making dinner for me and Lil, so I thought I'd take this moment to discuss my final point of my 3-point philosophy, and that is food as enjoyment. So one new mantra that I've managed to take on more recently is something called the 80-20 rule. This is a kind of mental target where you're striving to keep to the principles of your diet at least 80% of the time. The rule takes into account that we're all human and none of us can be perfect, and we shouldn't try to be. So for me, I interpret this to mean that the majority of the time, I should be trying to eat clean, healthy, whole foods that best support me, my training goals, and my health. But this also means that 20% of the time, I shouldn't expect to be sticking to my diet, and I shouldn't feel guilty when my wife and I have our pizza and chocolate Fridays. And by the same measure, it gives me permission to go out for a meal with my family and friends once in a while and indulge and not feel like I have to be boring and stick to a diet. This rule keeps me enjoying food and stops me from developing an unhealthy obsession with what I'm eating. At the end of the day, I'm just a regular person first and someone that enjoys training second. So I don't want my whole relationship with food, which is a quintessential part of being alive and being a human, to be dictated by the fact that I run and lift weights occasionally. And that's maybe one of the many reasons why I differ from a lot of the elite athletes whose advice is more readily available on YouTube and the internet. I don't mean to knock them, as I've said they have different priorities to me, but it's also important for you to recognise as an individual that you have your own unique priorities too. So there shouldn't be a prescriptive one-size-fits-all approach to how you eat. Anyway, let's go get some dinner. So for dinner, I've got a lentil and spinach dal with a homemade naan bread. So again, plenty of fibre, protein, and a decent serving of carbs too. And finally, just to finish, I've got a little apple and a bowl of some mixed nuts and some sultanas in there. So yeah, that's it for today's eating and for today's video. Let me know down in the comments what you thought of my approach, or what's been working for you recently. And if you enjoyed this video, please drop it a like and subscribe for more running, lifting, and general fitness content. And I'll see you again next time.